And now we are live. And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. This is Cass from What Cass Read, and you are here because you are here to discuss Ship of Magic, written by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy.
Oh,
and it is also It is also the fourth book in the Realm of the Elderlings. So we're over halfway through the Elderling along.
Well, the first part of it, at least.
Yeah. So like a quarter of the way. Do we want to go around and introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
Becca, you can go first.
I'm Becca from Becca and the Books. That's me.
I'm Ashley. My channel is A Frolic Through Fiction.
And I'm Cody, and my channel is Cody's Book Corner.
And I'm Cass. Okay, so the first order of business is for me to give a brief, and I'm going to use like quotation marks, brief synopsis of this chunky thing. But like I said, this is the first book of the Live Ship Traders trilogy written by Robin Hobb. So this is the first time we have taken a departure from the Six Duchies and the story of Fit Chivalry Farseer. We've been introduced to a whole slew of new characters. This takes place in a brand new location called the Cursed Shores, and our main location is this thriving trading city called Bingtown. The unique thing about Bingtown is that there's the Bingtown traders. This is very much a trading civilization where the families have their ships. They go through the rain wilds. There's actually these exotic and magical goods that they have plundered from the rain wilds, and a lot of these families got their trading start by making trades with the people of the rain wilds by selling these magical exotic items. The unique thing about the Bingtown traders is that they are also possessors of something called Wizardwood and live ships. Now, live ships are really unique ships because it takes 3 consecutive captains of the ship to live and work on the ship, and as well, they also have to pass away on the ship deck. And once they do, the ship has been imbued with their memories, and the ship masthead comes to life. And then it's just a very enviable kind of ship for everyone to have because it communicates with the crew, it communicates with the captain. What else does it do? It warns you if there's pirates around, etc. So we follow a Bingtown trading family called the Vestrit family. And then on the flip side of that, we also follow a pirate captain named Captain Kennett. So I think that's a good place to start, just to give you the basics, because anything past that, you're going to get into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Such a better synopsis than I ever give. I'm just like, there's live ships, there's ships that are alive.
Yeah.
So do we all want to go through and just say our ratings and kind of general thoughts? I'm thinking that we'll start off with non-spoilers. I don't have a plan for this live show, so we're not sure how long the non-spoiler section is going to last, but we will start off without any major plot spoilers at the beginning. Who wants to go? Oh, I should probably go first. I give it 5 stars. I'm not sure if I like it more than the Fitz books because it's a very different kind of fantasy. So I can't directly compare them and decide which one I like more. But I think that this is just like cover to cover sadness, pretty much. And I like the Fitz books are sad, but this one I feel like impacted me more emotionally just because it is so sad all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Yep.
I rated it 4 stars, but I was really, really unsure. So I actually had to use the core pile system, which was created by Geo Book Roast, which I never do because normally I'm just like, it's this number. So I had to really break it down and figure it out that way. And it did come out at 4 stars, which is the same as most of the Farseer trilogy, but I can very definitely say that I prefer the Farseer trilogy because I've said it all along. I'm not a massive fan of ship settings, anything fantasy, stuff like that. So it was just a matter of preference that way for me because I like the historical setting that the Fourth Year trilogy has much more. So yeah.
I ended up giving it a high 4-star, but upon reflection, because of the way it made me feel and the fact that it did make my heart hurt so much, it probably is a 5-star. I was probably just kind of holding back a little bit, like, no, I prefer the Fitz trilogy more. But in reflection, yeah, it was a really bloody good book. I was stuck in that world. I like would try and sit down to read it for 10 minutes, and I'd be there for 2 hours, and I'd be like, I would have only read about 50 pages in that time, but still. I think I didn't feel quite the same connection with these characters because there were so many perspectives. Mm-hmm. But the fact that she made me feel for them and I'd only known them for like 100 pages and I'm already crying. What the hell is this, like, sorcery? So yeah, loved it. Summary.
For me, this was a reread of this book. And the first time that I read it, I actually gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This time around, I'm still not committing to the 5-star. I'll give it a high 4, like a 4.5 star rating. The first time I read it, it's actually, I'll like piggyback off of what Ashley said, is the first time I read it, I was so anti-pirate book. I hated anything to do with pirates. But I loved Robin Hobb, so I was like, you're going to have to get through this pirate trilogy. And it took me a really long time to get into it. And so then it was kind of like what Cody said. After a while, like, I couldn't stop thinking about all of these characters. Mm-hmm. And that really turned the book around for me. This time around, the 4.5 star is, it's like bringing me back, obviously, to the beginning of meeting these characters. And some of these characters, I'm just like, I cannot stand you. I cannot read from your perspective any longer than I have to. But again, that might be a 5. I don't know, because she makes me feel so strongly about them.
It's interesting that I'm not surprised that I've come out with the lowest rating, because where you guys have landed on a 4 and then bumped it up because of the emotions, I would have landed on a 3 and I bumped it up to 4 because of emotions. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think after reading this book, I was like, all right, my hatred of pirate books is completely over. So now I'm like totally into it, but only if they can do it like this trilogy.
It's funny because I'm not like totally against them. There are books that are in the ocean setting and everything that I do like, but it's just very rare.
I think somebody, was it Deborah, said that it was easier to get into, and I definitely agree with that. Like, I found it so much more compelling and a lot, not necessarily faster paced because it is a pretty slow book, but did anybody else? Oh, Zaf is here. An ear infection, so she can't speak very well, but she's here. So
I sound like shit.
She sounds like a frog. Zaf, do you want to try and introduce yourself and also say your star rating and like non-spoiler thoughts?
Okay. Hi, my name is Safina. I'm from the I'm giving you an ASMR situation right now. My name is Safina. I'm from the Psychonics. I'm gonna say, okay, this was significantly easier to get into. I do agree. Like, I was listening to the conversation beforehand than the first set of books that we were listening to, but depression, it's like it drew the line to, like, okay, so this is how I'm gonna like write my reviews. Literally, imagine this, right? It's Thomas the Tank Engine, but ships with depression.
Oh my god, perfect.
Legit. So yeah, and I would give it like, I'm kind of like 3.5 to 4 stars because I do feel like it's very well written, but to me it did feel like another establishing novel, though I can understand why, because it is like the beginning of a whole new world and situation.
Anybody else with thoughts on whether it was easier to get into for you guys?
Yeah, I'd say so. I had to push myself through the first 100 pages of Assassin's Apprentice. I almost DNF'd it, and then it ended up being one of my favorite series. So yeah. I thought this was easier to get through. Yeah.
I would say no, but that's because I struggle. Like, I don't see pictures in my brain when I imagine stuff. So which is why I laughed so hard when Zaf just said that it's Thomas the Tank Engine. I had like every time they mentioned live ships, I just couldn't, like, I knew what she was explaining, but just the concept of them moving around just jarred me too much to be able to picture it properly. So I had to Google fan art, try and not spoil myself for the series, just so that I could see the world building, I guess, because so much is based on the ship, so that is the world for a large part of it. And yeah, that's why I just laughed so hard when Zaf said Thomas the Tank Engine, because slap the face on a moving vehicle.
Pretty much. A lot of people, I know, Ashley, you listen to the audiobook. A lot of people are saying that they don't like it. How did you feel about it?
I think there's a glitchy fault, which I somehow just didn't get, because Jane couldn't get it working, Cody couldn't get it working. So many people are saying that it just like cut off half of the sentence or the end of the sentence. And I was just like,
oh,
I'm fine.
Like, for me, it like did it at the end of like it felt like every word, and it was so frustrating because I was listening to it at 2 times speed, and I was just like, I'm struggling with this so much because if you have Kindle Unlimited, Amazon isn't sponsoring me. You can like read all the books. So I had my phone open as I was listening to the audiobooks, and that's the only way I was able to follow along, because otherwise I'm just listening to some bitch trying to speak like Wally.
Why did I have a problem?
I hated the narrator. I hated the narrator, but I actually, before this, I listened to the Rainwild Chronicles on audio, and it has the same narrator. So by the time I'm coming back to this reread and listening to the audiobook again, like I already got through 4 books of hers, so it was like whatever.
Kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
I've had that problem before with audiobooks, but only if I've tried to connect them to speaker. If I try and just listen on my phone, it's fine. I do have that problem with speakers, but yeah, it's weird because I know, Ashley, you didn't have any problems with it at all.
I was fine. I was trying to get Jay's to work for her, and it just wasn't working.
Somebody said something in the chat that I wanted to pick up on, but I can't remember what it is now.
You're doing great.
I should have probably remembered. Somebody said that I think it's Sophie, the Farseer trilogy have great characters, but the books had a plot in each book that contributed to the whole story, whereas this seemed to focus on the characters only. Now, I don't know if I agree with that, because I feel like so much of the Farseer trilogy was in Fitz's head, and like an example is like the entire first part of Assassin's Quest, where it's just about him trudging along this road with time. I feel like the plot, I mean, it is definitely a setup book. But I feel like it is going to contribute more to a plot while still being really character focused. I don't really know how to explain it.
It's a strange one, because I think I kept saying all the way through, I did not actually like any of the characters. Like, I didn't love anybody. I liked them more than others, but I didn't overly, like, I'm not fond of any of them. But I was still going through the whole rail of emotions. The contest I was at her house while doing so. Nearly flung the book at her multiple times.
It's so much more interesting, though, to read from characters that you don't always like and realize that you don't agree with them, but you can completely see where they're coming from, even if you want to punch them in the face. You know?
This book and this whole trilogy, I have always said, like, if someone ever asked me in like a Q&A or something like that, I got this one time where if you could take any of the fantasy trilogies or series that you've read and turn it into a TV show, which one would it be? It would be this trilogy.
Yes.
Because there's so many characters to follow along with. There's a lot of politics at play, and I'm not sure if the first time around readers have been picking up on the politics, but it definitely ramps up. The plot just like ramps up every single book. You think it's crazy at the end of this book, it gets crazier and crazier as it goes along.
I think that's why Hobb needs establishing novels. Like, maybe it's one, like, you know, her getting better as a writer, but also I feel like it's because she really wants you to understand the basis of everything. And I felt like, just like our previous series, it was very prophetic. I felt like there were lots of lines and little instances that felt very prophetic. And I feel like, I don't know what kind of writer she is, if she's like a planner or a pantser, but she definitely gives a vibe to me of a planner, because I don't know how to explain it, but it's like her writing feels very, very intricate, and the way she like sets up her characters and the little nuances, it's very, very natural. It's not like enforced, like this is what this character's like, you know? And actually Cassie made a really good point, because that's also what's going through my head is like there's a niche here where there is no TV show that's literally like dedicated to like pirates. Like I don't think, like, other than Pirates of the Caribbean, I have literally nothing in my head. So I feel like it would be really unique.
It would be great. I also really like how Hobb doesn't give you too much info on the world. You are discovering it with them, rather than it being, I mean, I do love Farseer, but we did have, you know, the chunk of this is the information you need for the next few chapters. Whereas in this, it was a case of we learn along with the characters. So I found it easier to consume in that way. And also we already know kind of the world anyway from reading Farseer. So it was just nice how she planned that out, I guess.
I feel like a lot of this, like, for first-time readers would catch us more off guard, because obviously in Farseer we have allusions to prophecy and stuff, and obviously the Fool, and we're kind of looking more than we would in this one, whereas in this something could happen and we'll just be like, oh.
This is where we might start to get a little bit spoilery, because I want to ask about characters in general, because I know Ashley specifically said that you don't really like any of the characters, but I have a favorite character. I love Althea. I never once did not like Althea. I think she's badass. So do you guys have favorite characters, or does everybody else pretty much hate everyone?
I like the Paragon. I like the Pariah, the ship, the Paragon. I think he's really interesting.
Cool. And the
He's
one
of my favorite perspectives.
The other live ship, is it Octavia?
Oh yeah, Octavia's hilarious.
She's great as well.
Yeah.
I think I actually said it to you, Becca, as I was reading it. I was like, well, 700 pages in and I've just found my new favourite character, Octavia.
Yeah.
She's the only one I like in all of this. I don't like Althea. I do like her the most out of everybody, but I don't know. It was just more a case if I find them interesting to read about. So, for instance, Winter, don't necessarily like him, but I find his reactions really amusing, because he will piss off everybody by being the calmest soul. Like, oh, that's the power.
Right. I love Russian.
I love everybody, with the exception of Kyle, obviously, Kenneth. But I have to like bring my mind back to this first book, and it was really funny for me to like go back and read these characters and their beginnings, because now I've got like full-blown feelings for so many of them that to like see them back where they started, I was like, oh, you are different now. But I love the dynamic of the Vestrit women. The Vestrit women are just among my favorite. I love Paragon. That's never going to change. Those are my tops right now.
I feel like with the Vestrit women, it's really like, it was interesting reading them do their thing, but when any of them come together, it's so intense because they're all really headstrong, and it's just like they all clash so hard.
Only what's Althea's sister called? She's the one that's the one.
Kefria?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
The rest of them are really strong, even the kid, and she's a lot more submissive than the rest of them.
Yeah, I just don't think she likes confrontation, does she? She's very passive.
And the rest of them are all really argumentative.
I feel like my favorite scene, actually, I think in probably the whole book, is where, I don't want to say spoilers, but they meet other women, the Vestrit women meet other women, and they sit down and they have a conversation, and I thought it was great.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Wait, are we talking about, well, because we are in the spoiler section of the live show.
Yeah, we'll just go on spoilers now. So if you have not finished, we'll give you.
You're talking about the Kypris women, the Kupris women. Yes, I love that scene.
They're all like, men, her.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to start talking about the characters, but I don't really know where to start. But I feel like a good place to start right now, while we're talking about characters that we like and dislike, could be Malta. Because
couldn't she? Sansa, who? Jesus.
I'm so torn, because you guys know that I really don't like Sansa. But Malta, I actually can't decide how I feel about her, because on the one hand, she's really annoying, but on the other hand, I kind of respect how clever she is.
Yeah.
So I don't know which side I fall. Like, I keep flip-flopping between the two perspectives and can't decide.
So manipulative. It's like she's just watched her father and just picked it all up.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I can tell I'm going to like her more as we progress in the thing, because that kind of manipulation or the cleverness will turn into things that I can actually get behind or will be interesting to read, rather than just like petty things like, I want to open this gift box, and it's like
she's so naive, but you know she's gonna have like a harsh realization soon, and I just can't wait to see her go through it and the arc she's gonna have. I think it'll be great.
It's the scene with Veronica when they just have their showdown, and I'm like, oh, that turned very quickly, because she's just like,
To be honest, I read this entire thing, like, I kind of rep all the women, even the shitty ones, because in my head I'm sexist. All women are so shit. And I just feel tired. And I feel like Hobb is maybe because she's a woman, but like she just doesn't write women shit, and they're all very, very complicated. They're all very, very nuanced. And I feel like she's gonna do some fuckery.
She's
I'm like watching Cass's face, like
I have to keep my mouth so shut in this discussion about Malta, because
Malta is interesting as well, because she's not only naive, she's also really childish, to the point where like she wants that guy from the Rainwild. I nearly said the Rainwild Chronicles, that's a series. She wants the guy from the Rainwilds, but then when she might have to marry him, she's like, oh no, actually I don't think I will, like it's okay, I didn't mean it. So what
I might make that other guy jealous.
It's such a 14-year-old girl. Like, I don't think I've come across, and like you said, Zaf, because Robin Hobb's a woman, I don't think I've come across anyone who could write a 14-year-old girl as well as this 14-year-old character.
Because I feel like a lot of the time when in high fantasy, whenever you read like girls or teenage girls, or at least, gendered feminine characters, they're just so simplistic, and they always fit into these same female stereotypes, and it's always very, very classist. But I like the variation that we kind of got here.
I like that she's so naive about the family's situation. Like, all of the other women in the family are very in tune with what's going on, and she at this point just wants things to continue as if things are going on, and she wants to rush ahead to be this grown woman, but she makes these like mistakes here and there that clearly show her age, and just like the way she handles it, not always the best. And I love
that's where my frustration with her comes in, because she's making I respect the fact that she's like sneaking around and like whiling her way out of things, but the decisions that she's making, because she's trying to make the decisions of a woman as a child, is impacting everybody. So she's just fucking things up for everybody, and that's where she starts to really irritate me, because she doesn't see the scope of what she's doing. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where her character is going to go, and see which side I fall on with her, because I do think she's going to be quite pivotal, with just because the part that she plays in the first book isn't super relevant to the plot, but she has a lot of page time.
She does have a lot of we don't get
sorry, somebody just said I think you actually pulled it up, saying we know she thinks she's clever, and I'm intrigued to see about that distinction, because it's like, will she actually end up like being the sort where we've all fallen for this, like, oh, she's just a little girl, she doesn't know what's going on, because she's proven to be annoying and making these bad decisions? Or will she actually end up being like, no, she thinks she's far more clever than she actually is, and she's just done a massive fuck up now? Where we fall.
I just don't want another situation like Sansa, because just as Becca was saying, I'm very, very tired of people being shitty for the longest time, and then suddenly they come out on top. No. Like, give me true repercussions, because that's where shit is tasty. And I feel like Hobb is the kind who does, like, she's happy to make everyone feel like shit and make everyone suffer. This book was depression. And so I feel like everyone needs some serotonin after reading this. So I do feel like it is going to be a situation where she's not going to hold back from Malta potentially getting what's coming to her. Looks at Cass's face.
I can't. I have to keep my mouth so shut on Malta.
How do we feel about the other Vestrit women then? I think my favorite, aside from Althea, would be Ronica. I love Ronica. Although it's good writing, because I hate her so much at the beginning. because she's not listening to Althea at all, and she knows that she did a fuck up. Essentially, it didn't take her very long to realize. But I do really, really like Veronica as like the head of the family, and it annoys me when people are working against her and arguing against her. Although, admittedly, she did make a terrible mistake right at the beginning.
I do like that she owns that though. Like she doesn't just try and. She's not adamant that she made the right decision and this is the better thing for the family. Like she soon realizes that she did a massive fuck up, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, try and fix this how I can then."
I can't wait for Kefria to come to the same realization. Like, oh, he is a dick. Like this. She's getting there.
She's getting there. Yeah.
I was so frustrated with her at the beginning, where she was just doing whatever he wanted, because he is just. Oh, it's hard because we never see what he's like when. What's the dad called?
Well, the dad.
Ephron.
Ephron. We never see what he's like when Ephron is the head of the family and keeping him in line. So we always see him as a massive arsehole, but he must have been different before. He must have been like the model, like poster boy to start off with. And then as soon as Ephron is like out of the picture and he's the man of the house, he starts to completely take over. So it's really interesting seeing everybody do a 180 on a character that we have known from page 1 is just awful.
Yeah. And he takes a lot of baggage with him from the fact that he had to marry into a rich trading family. He's not from Bingtown, so the only way he could get the status and could get the live ship was by marrying Kefria. And then he gets it, and then since he doesn't understand the trading ways that Ronica is trying to like yell into his head, that's why all these
he did the worst thing he could possibly do. He did the worst thing he could possibly do with a live ship, which is like have slaves on it. Like that much human anguish is just
everything he did. It's just because he thought that he knew the best all the time, and everything he did
Just like men
directly, he put obstacles in his own path every single time he made a decision. He's ruined his own life. No, I don't think I've ever hated a character like I hate Kyle.
No, me neither.
I feel like we've met a lot of Kyles in our lives.
Oh yeah. The gaslighting. Oh my god, with his wife.
Literally, I was gonna say, it's like literally to me, narcissistic, fucking gaslighting, toxic relationship, dickhead.
This is so in contrast to like all the males we were reading about in Farseer. So much in contrast.
And isn't it interesting that they consider the people of the Six Duchies to be savages?
Yeah, like less sophisticated because their women work. And
well,
it's just like
sexism as well, where women are now not allowed to do things, and they consider the six. It was just funny because I think it was Brashen kept telling Althea to go to the Six Duchies, and she's like, "Oh no, they're all savages because why? Because people can do what they want to do."
And they get married in front of rocks. That's what she said.
Oh yeah,
they get married in front of rocks.
I was going to say that I do feel like it's a bit of a contrast in the sense that I feel like, to me personally, I felt like the male characters in general were stronger in the Farseer trilogy. And I feel like, at least from the start here, I feel like the female characters are stronger.
Yeah, definitely. Because who did we have? We had Patience, Ketrican, and Molly. Were they all of the female characters in Farseer?
And Starling. Not my fave.
I
didn't make it to the Assassin's Quest live show, but just I hate Starling. Okay.
I don't know. I like it to a point, and then
I don't even remember.
Exactly. And then they're like, she just needs to get out of my life.
While we were talking about the women in Farseer, actually, I was very surprised at the little bit of romance we had in this between Brashen and Althea, because I kind of saw it coming, but I remembered how bad the romance element was in the Farseer trilogy, so I was not looking forward to it at all. But I ship it. Brashen and Althea. It's good.
And the sex scene wasn't bad compared to the first series, because it was through Fitz's perspective, so he's all like coy and shit, isn't he?
And he kept comparing it to a horse as well.
Oh yeah.
The weird thing where, like, I don't know what it is about Robin Hobb writing, but I just imagine all of the male characters as older than they are. So I found it a little bit strange to begin with, because I imagined Althea as a little kid because they always refer to her as a little kid. And then Brashen, who in my head was older than he is, even though there's not that big of an age gap. So I was just like, is this weird? And I had to like reset myself when stuff started happening. So I was like,
it never explicitly says how old anybody is in the book. You have to work it out. I think it's mentioned at some point in the series that something happened when it tells you the age difference between Keffria and Althea, and then it says that Keffria did something at a certain age, and that's how you can figure out how old Althea is. I think
Brashen is told to be 24.
Yeah, and
but
I think
the first time I read it, I was like, Ashley, I imagined him to be much older. So when I was like, oh, they're going to get together, I was like, wait, how old are they?
That's why I looked it up, because I thought that he was mid-20s to 30, but then I thought that she was around 15, 16. I think she's around 19, 20, and Keffria is around 30.
Oh, that big of an age gap.
It was Reddit where I found it, where somebody had done all the maths and worked out how old the little character was.
Repeat the ages. I was trying to Google it. Repeat the age, please. I was trying to Google it.
I think Brashen's 24, and Althea's 19-ish.
Makes sense.
Yeah, not too bad. And I do like Brashen. I'm excited to see what part he plays, because like they kind of left off in a really weird. They didn't see each other, did they? She never went to say goodbye to him, or he never went to say goodbye to her. So I'm interested, because they are definitely going to meet up again. I'm wondering, actually, big spoilers for the end if anybody hasn't got that far, but I'm wondering if she is going to find him and help. He's going to help her get the ship back now that she's got what she needs.
It's not going to be that easy, though, is it? It's not going to be that easy. It's Robin Hobb. She's going to make us suffer before we get any spark of hope or happiness.
As soon as that whole conversation with Octavia was happening, being like, we can rally up, and I was like, that's not going to happen.
The second book is literally called The Mad Ship.
It kind of goes into... That's literally what I was going to say. Like, I feel like there's a lead up in the sense that there's so many ships that we kind of know of, and it's just like, which one is it going to be?
Because Paragon's is mad, but Vivasia's getting there.
She's going there with the sea snakes. What's that about? What are them sea snakes doing? They clearly used to be something, and I don't really know yet.
I was trying to spoiling it for her because she wasn't up to that part yet. I kept saying, like, have you got to the bit where the snakes say this thing? But she wasn't there yet. I think, I don't know how it works, and it's like hurting my brain to figure out how it works, but I think that Vivacia used to, like, whatever animates the live ships has something to do with the serpents. So I think Vivacia is the one who, is it she who remembers? I have no idea of the logistics of how she would now be a ship. Because did anybody start the book and read, I think it's the prologue from the serpent's perspective, and not have any clue what's going on? Just like didn't.
I'm also intrigued about Amber, because I think I said to Becca at one point, she reads as if she is a live ship, because like her description is literally the same as a live ship, and like how she's formed, I guess. But I'm just like, you are a really random character to just keep popping up, and you can do something with Wizardwood, or you keep being suspected of using Wizardwood. So I'm just like, I am suspicious of you.
I mean, on this front cover, she does look like she's also made of wood. Like, I'm guessing that's Amber and Paragon, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think it was on the Discord that we have. I think I was just scrolling through. I think it was there. I saw somebody say that Amber is gold, like the fool starts to turn gold.
Ooh.
But I don't.
Somebody as well in the comments was just like, have you met Amber yet? And I was just like, why are you asking?
I didn't figure out Amber at all until the very end, and that's only because someone had to literally spell it out for me. But they kept asking me about Amber. And then I found out, and I was like, oh. So now when I read Amber, I was definitely paying attention more, and like being like, you're such an idiot. I didn't, like, I read the whole series and had to have someone spell it out for me.
I'm intrigued.
Why are you putting things in my head?
There's a lot to think about when it comes to Amber. So.
I was saying to Becca, I was just like, I think I have a theory apart from I don't. I just kind of went, I'm putting these things together.
Yeah, you did, and I was just really confused as to how you got it.
I'm just like, I have reasons.
What's your
But I've
theory?
heard
What's your
other
theory?
people smarter than me figured out who Amber was by the second book.
Hmm.
Literally took me.
No, my theory is about Brashen having something to do with the story behind Paragon.
Mm.
And
I can find she was wrong. But
I don't remember like why it was that I picked up on that. It was always like
the cousin never came back. They don't know what happened to the cousin that went out on Paragon.
Oh, my theory changed from then. We learned more about the cousin.
Right.
They continued because there was like matching gaps in the stories behind Brashen and the story behind like the people who knew Paragon. And I was just like, why does Brashen have this connection with Paragon? Because he's the first character we see to actually talk to him as if he's a live thinking sentient thing. So I was just like, why?
Is that because Amber is connected through the families of Paragon, or is that because Amber's a unique character? Like more unique than anyone else hanging out in Bingtown? Because they do make sure that you know that she's got this like othery, mysterious air about her.
Is she from there? Is she from like the Ring Wilds or no? Like, I don't know.
Can't tell you.
It's interesting because there's not really. She's described as being different, but she's never really described apart from being all the same color. That's the only real descriptor. Because I was trying to figure out what she was, because people say like, oh, it's almost like she's made out of wood herself because she's the same color as the wood, but she's not.
As soon as it said her name, I was just like oh. But yeah, it's really.
There's a lot more clues that you get about Amber right now, but again, that's because I'm now rereading it and picking up on the clues. But there's a lot of like descriptors that would give you the good.
I have a question that I want to ask, but I'm scared to ask it. So, should I ask it?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so just going back, at least how I remember it, the fool wasn't given a gender, right?
Mm.
Those eyebrow movements. That's it. That's it. If you understood my question, then you might see where I perceive things. But
Okay.
I see it. I don't know if
do you see it? Am I crazy?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Not a crazy question to ask.
Hob like literally gives you a bit of bread to put in the soup, but not enough to actually like delve in and know what's going on, and I hate it.
See, I thought maybe she was like a mortal or something, and she had to do with the Rain Wilds and how they created the ships. But then she's asking the Paragon about how he is made and stuff. So, like, clearly not. I don't know.
I'm just reading everybody's theories in the chat. Like, so there's some people who know because they've read the books and they're saying that they figured it out pretty quickly.
We're all laughing at
I'm
us.
happy I'm not alone.
Yeah.
The fool can carve really well.
Oh, Meg's comment.
Wait.
Shape wood into interesting things.
The fool carves. He makes toys.
True.
I've just read that out from Fifi's above saying the fool can carve really well. I'm just like, and isn't the fool the character that pops up in every series?
I don't know because I just know he's in the 5th series. So like people could say, oh yeah, he's in every series, but not mean every series. So I don't know.
But he was missing at the end of Farseer trilogy. He was just gone. Like, where did he go? Did he go?
He does that. Fool does that.
Should we really be referring to the fool as a he?
True.
True.
Well, then there was
also from
thing.
Assassin's Quest, Fitz like flat out asks the fool, "Are you male or female?" And the fool goes, "Does it matter?"
True. But then the fool, it was Stalin who put that idea in Fitz's head, and Fool was kind of just, he never said whether he was male or female, or they were male or female, but then everything that they were saying to Fitz was kind of in a roundabout way telling them that Starling was wrong or Starling was lying and not to listen to Starling. I don't know.
Starling.
Another interesting parallel is that series, spoilers for the Farseer trilogy if anyone's randomly read one and not those ones, that series ended with them bringing stone to life. So isn't that far from it.
It is nature.
Interesting.
My mind is blown.
Because, yeah, the Fool was going amber at the end of it, or golden, which you get the Tawny Man trilogy, because you get the golden guy. What is it called?
Golden Fool. Yeah.
yeah, the Golden Fool. I was like, what was that book called?
It would make sense because I'm assuming that the Fool is now going to move through some kind of like spectrum of color, and the point of where amber is around the point where they are. Kind of like beige.
Unless it's a different prophet. Because there are other white prophets. That's how the Fool knows that he's going through this change. Because he talks about like his skin changing color.
Fifi just said, ha ha ha, the Fool was going amber, like in color. Oh, I don't know, because I don't feel like Amber behaves like the Fool, and I would like to think that Robin Hobb would leave the personality of the Fool in there, so you could kind of like mislead you in every other way. The Fool, like in personality, you know.
I would disagree, like on a level, just because I feel like these things that we've all seen are kind of already there to give you that kind of link. But I feel like maybe we're potentially, let's say that they are the same. Maybe we're just seeing a different aspect of the Fool in a different context, and that's why they're behaving differently. Meanwhile, when like in the situation they were in the Farseer trilogy, we're in a very like royal, literally this context of what's it called? Like what's a Fool called? A jester, right? Like a kind of jester, something prophetic. But they don't have that context in this series. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's how I kind of see.
I don't theorize about everything just because I know I'm going to look like the Fool from the end. Like it's just
So I'm gonna go BA English on this right now. Like,
but there's a lot of connections. Like it's so interesting because there's a lot of minor characters that have some like big connections that aren't going to be pieced together for a while. So it is fun to like make the theories because like right now in this book was like very Vestrit focused, which the whole trilogy is, but some of these minor characters keep popping up and then you make lots of connections.
I want to like pick apart as I read. I don't know if there's been any further hints of it in this book, but Kenneth keeps referring to this thing called his luck, and I'm like, that's got to be something more because he can't just be this lucky.
Oh, Kenneth's
he's lucky for some of the things that happen to him. I don't even consider lucky. He just thinks that they are. Like I got my leg chopped off. How lucky I am! And it's like, well, you're lucky you didn't die, but it's still not luck. If it was luck, then you wouldn't have had your leg cut off. Like,
I think he refers to his Wizardwood charm as his luck, although the Wizardwood charm likes to mess with him.
But didn't that come afterwards?
I don't know.
I want to know more about the others. I want to know more about the others for sure. What even do they look like? Were they like fish? I didn't know.
In my head, has anyone seen Pan's Labyrinth, the movie?
Yeah.
In my head, I was thinking of the others, like the creepy guy in Pan's Labyrinth with the like eyeball hands. Yeah. Sorry about that visual.
Me and Cody just did it.
Yeah. So like, it's like
the moment that really threw me with Kenneth and his charm is when he's in bed with the woman whose name I can't remember.
Edda?
Yes. And the charm is nice to her. And Robin never makes the distinction. It's left on you to decide whether Kenneth would have said that. And then later he's questioning it, like, why are you being so nice to me? Like, I've not said anything to you. Like it's the charm that does it, and I think that's really interesting how you kind of have to puzzle out what is the charm and what is him.
Yeah, and what does the charm want? Like, what is he trying to do here? Like, it clearly has some kind of agenda. Like, it's messing with him and his relationships, but to what end? You know?
I'm wondering God.
Oh, sorry. Like the charm, we know that very few people would even consider carving a Wizardwood charm. But what is quickening the Wizardwood charm? Like, why is the charm talking to him? Because we need like something to quicken the live. And this is like a genuine question that just popped up. I don't know the answer to this.
It's again, it's another parallel to, like, I just thought the whole process of having 3 generations of people die on the deck of a live ship is so similar to them bringing, like, in the Farseer trilogy when they had to bring the dragons live because they had to put themselves into it, which is the same thing that's happening with the live ship. So I'm just like,
Connections.
So of magic.
Do you think that's like a reference to the skill? Do you think that's like the same kind of, like when Althea's like literally laying on the Vivacia and like pouring her memories, and Wintro has a couple moments like that too? I feel like that's skilling, but they don't call it that.
That's interesting. I didn't think of that. Which I should have done.
That was only a second reread. Pick up on that one. I probably do. I'll just have to. I'm reading the cast. You can't remember why the charm is awake. Oh, then I think I know.
Ooh. Oh shit! I forgot my question. No, I remembered it. Okay, so I do find it weird because I feel like we were like in the first book we were kind of explaining the wit and the skill, right? But it's like, what are the names of magic that don't align within those?
Rain
I
Wild.
don't know if we're going to get an answer to that until the Rain Wilds, because the Rain Wilds is where, even though this is a lot more magical than the Six Duchies, the magic comes from the Rain Wilds.
And I feel like in the Six Duchies they've essentially heavily restricted, and I feel like it is, again, it works very well as an introduction to all of Hobb's Elderling world things, because it's really, really slow in explaining that. But I feel like there's this vast amount of magic that we don't understand how it works, especially when it comes to nature and energy. So I'm really curious as to how that aligns with things, and I feel like this is something that you did bring up in the previous live shows, Becca, with how you feel like there's like this big connection between the Elderlings and nature itself. So I'm kind of intrigued if this series is going to maybe explore nature magic more, because I feel like there's already so many inclinations of that. Just the existence of the live ships already kind of gives into that idea.
Another thing that I might be looking too far into. Looking through all my tabs because I know that I tabbed the description of Amber and I can't find it, but I've been looking through, which is why I keep looking down. But one of the things at the very beginning, considering I've just said that the magic is very similar to what they do with the dragons and stuff in Farseer, or Elderlings rather, at the very beginning, page 16, Wintro keeps drawing dragons and serpents. And it's that symbol all the time, and I'm like, interesting.
I missed that completely.
I think he's skilling, like, and like using his like monk artistry to like channel the skill into whatever he was like drawing and painting.
Comes out of this trance and like falls into a burnout, and every time he does, he's drawn some kind of dragon and serpent.
Huh.
I kind of want to ask a question, but without it being spoilery, I guess. How long after this trilogy is the Rain Wilds trilogy set? Like, are all of the characters in this trilogy only in this trilogy?
No. We'll see some adult versions of some of the younger characters. And we actually see some of the younger characters sprinkled into the Tawny Man trilogy. Ooh. So now the trilogies after this point are going to start mingling a little bit.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be great.
I was thinking about Wintro, that the fact that he's drawing dragons may not actually be relevant to this trilogy, because he's drawing serpents as well, or like putting them into stained glass windows, and the serpents could be for this trilogy, and then later on there's going to be more dragons, because I don't know if the dragons come into this trilogy properly. They'll definitely be in the Rain Wilds because there's dragons all over the covers of the books, but
I'm out here thinking of the Prairie of the Orange Tree with dragons being in water and stuff right now. That would be intriguing.
Those are
secretly under the sea.
There's been a video that I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's been like a definitive ranking of all my favorite dragon books because there's like so many different kinds of dragons.
Mhm.
And the dragons we meet here are different slightly from the Priory of the Orange Tree dragons.
I do like, I really, because I don't know whether we are taking a break after this trilogy, if we are just going to keep going, but I can't wait to see us all further down the line being like, right, theorizing, we have 5 million books behind us, only 2 left in front. This character showed up in this specific book.
It's like Sanderson, like it's like
The thing that I appreciate about Robin Hobb, I think, just because I'm reading Wave Kings, like Stormlight Archive at the minute, I find Robin Hobb easier to connect the threads because, yeah, like Sanderson's just so subtle. I find Robin Hobb just a little bit easier.
And let's not even go into fucking what's his face, the one who ruined Daenerys. Martin, yeah. We're not even going to that.
No, let's not talk.
Subtle motherfucker. I'm so bitter. Carry on.
For how big a deal dragons are in that book, they're not actually featured that much. Just, all right, we won't get into that. But
this is one of the things I remember saying in the last live show because I was just like, they literally just appeared all of a sudden, like it wasn't a build up at all. Just like, and then the dragons appeared, and I was like,
right.
Okay.
Just appreciating that the pose that Cody throws in is like very picturesque.
Yeah.
She's just like, I feel like she just saw a ghost, and that's why she's looking off screen now. She's disappeared.
So we haven't touched upon like the main characters, which I would say Kenneth, Wintro, and Althea. So, which one do we want to go with first?
Should we do Wintro because we haven't touched upon anything about like the religion and stuff like that, which is we have to say and all this kind of world building that doesn't quite feel not like less important, but it's quite literally tossed aside by Kyle. So we don't really see too much of it besides Wintro being like, I am a priest all the way through.
That was like the biggest that was the biggest shock to my system because I completely forgot at the beginning how naive and biased Wintro was. And then of course Robin Hobb puts him through some shit. But at the beginning I was like, oh, Wintro.
Yeah, he's I like him. I respect that he sticks to his guns for as long as he possibly can, at least. But yeah, just like we're gonna go back into Kyle again if we're talking about Wintro, but oh my god, just Wintro, it's like a self-improvement quote factory.
The one sorry, go on.
I don't know what to say about Wintro. Because he's definitely he's done the dirtiest, like him and Althea have done the dirtiest, I would say, in the whole book. But I think one thing that I really like about him is that he continues to stay kind of optimistic throughout it all. Like he goes through a rough patch through the middle. But he doesn't he's considering how young he is, he's still the better person and that he doesn't really blame the Vivacia. For what's going on. Like they have their disagreements because he doesn't want to be there and then she takes it personally, and they have that whole conflict, but he's very, because how old is he 13?
He's older than Malta, so I would put him like 14 15 because Malta we know is like 13.
He's 14 because doesn't he have to be 15 to get away from his dad until he's 15? He
very young to have reached 27th contradiction is what I've just read. I'm looking through that thing
I thought he was 13, turning 14.
Yeah, he's 13.
Yeah.
I agree with Kat.
So he's a lot he's definitely the bigger man. To be fair, he's probably the most mature out of the majority of the characters there, aside from the fact that he's naive and thinking that he's going to get away at any point and that he can do what he wants. Because
he
Kyle
really came into his own at the end, though. I was so proud of him when he stood up to Kenneth. I was like, "Oh, love it."
My thing is, I just find it really ironic. I was trying to find the specific word that they word it, which is why, I'm looking through the book, but I can't find it. But it starts with him being told off for like prejudging the people in this town because he's just like, oh, I don't want to go back. Like they're all just, they don't understand and whatever. And the older priest is just like, go and live with them first, and then you'll learn to not prejudge them. They're not all awful. And then I'm like, oh, that lesson was not learned. Okay.
I just wanted Wintro and Althea to be on the Vivacia together. I hope that's how it ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he can go
Give
back.
the babies happiness.
Has anyone watched Vikings on like the History Channel, BBC? No. Okay.
I know what happens.
There's a
The hot guy.
character. There's a character that's a priest named Athelstan. If anyone who is also a part of the live show watching has seen that, they remind me so much of one another because Athelstan is an English priest who is kidnapped as a slave by the Vikings and then brought back to Norway. And then he begins this like dialogue with Ragnar Lothbrok about the two different religions. So I feel like a lot of that is what Wintro is doing. Like his conversations with Vivacia are like he's really struggling to see Vivacia as alive because of his devotion to Saw. And Vivacia is like a brand new babe, you know, just learning about life. I like their conversations together a lot.
I think they had a very, very intriguing relationship, and I feel like it was like this is, I think, one of the biggest appeals to high fantasy because you can explore these relationships you wouldn't otherwise. They don't exist, right, in our world, and it's very, very intriguing because I feel, I don't know, it does give you a vibe of like a boy and his dragon.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. Like that kind of very, very intricate, in-depth relationship. But I also feel both of their naivety together is what's going to essentially grow both the ship, but also Wintro. And what I was saying earlier was I do think that Malta and Wintro are kind of the antithesis of each other to start off with, personally to me. And it's going to be intriguing to see how these two parallels kind of like develop. Becca, what's funny?
I'm reading that comment.
His finger, and that was
I don't know. I was thinking of Aragorn. Leave me alone. We've been talking about like dragons so much.
I love how Vivacia's instinct is that of a child because she literally puts everything in her mouth. Like anything that someone gives to her, she's like, I'm just gonna eat that.
The weird thing, like with their relationship as well, I found it interesting that Wintro, like one of the reasons he was so like backing away from it is because he was almost comparing it to a romantic thing. He was just like, I shouldn't want this because it's just a really like intimate feeling. And the only thing he's ever heard it compared to is love. So he's just like, I can't love this, what shouldn't be an animate object. And he's just really like conflicted all the way through that. And I'm like, oh, you poor soul. I don't know what's going on.
I think it's interesting as well because the way that he doesn't see her as a real thing, like with a real soul or anything, I do think is interesting because as a reader coming from reading the Six Duchies, like we have seen the dragons at the end, but we haven't seen the live ships before. And also from the perspective of the serpents, it's quite clear that the Vivacia isn't what she actually seems like. She's come from somewhere else. So she's not technically a soul in like the way that humans are a soul kind of thing. She's definitely something else. And even the fact that the people who aren't from trader families don't really know what they are or understand them as well is interesting.
Like, is it going to be as
How
big?
people just said she hated when Kenneth came on board and was flirting with Vivacia. That is the only point that I actually liked Kenneth throughout the entire book.
Yeah.
I was
He
just
started flirting. Oh, Kenneth.
I was like, how is this ship getting hot for this dude? Like, she has those urges? What?
I was just like,
I feel like she's a teenage girl who's just like, you know, you're talking about her wanting to put everything in her mouth. Kids want to experiment when they're teens, you know, like.
I also hated the scene with Kenneth coming on board with Vivacia because I was just like, can you please get away from my live ship?
It was the only, I think it's the only point throughout the book that we actually see him be nice to anyone or anything. He's just, his perspective was my least favorite to read from. I said it many times throughout my vlogs that I found this book a lot easier to get into, but anytime I had to read from his perspective, it dragged. Because I didn't like him and I didn't find anything he did particularly interesting, and it was obvious. Like, obviously we were learning about like where he's from and the pirates and stuff like that, but I knew that his perspective was going to, his end goal was what was important, and like the things that were actually happening as they were going on weren't as interesting. So I did not get on with his perspective at all, and the only point I liked him is when he came on board Vivacia and started flirting with her.
Yeah, he's very strange, isn't he? With the way like he wants pain, but then he wants to erase. Like the tattoo thing was strange to me. Like, what's his deal?
I find it interesting to read his perspective because he thinks he's also clever and manipulating every situation, whereas he is quite literally just conveniently falling into better situations than he puts himself in. Because, for instance, like he keeps referring to it as his luck, which is why I referred to it earlier, being like, I want to know what this actually is because I think there's something more. Which is why it's interesting that he does have the charm, which is probably made out of Wizardwood, because we know that live ships can steer themselves and do what they want rather than listen to the people controlling them. So I'm like, is this charm somehow controlling him? But every situation, like at one point, every chapter felt like he was getting into a bad situation and being like, oh, actually, this has worked out better for me because now this guy's thinking this and he thinks that I'm the also benevolent captain. And like that, he was sort of framing it as if he was so clever and conniving and manipulative, and I was just like, no, you're just making better of a bad situation.
I think I did kind of appreciate how he could do that, though, how he could find like a situation could go not in his favor and he could find a way to make it better for himself personally.
You could see that he thought that he was like I'm gonna do that and make like a good positive spin on it for his sake, but then at the same time I'm just like, you're not doing any of this.
Yeah.
Book 1 Kennett is the only reason why I can't give this a 5-star, I think. He's just like the one I hate the most, and that could make me lean toward a 5-star because I hate him so much. I hate Kyle more, but the character progression of Kennett is so, I mean, there's a lot that happens to Kennett in the 3 books. So book 1, Kennett, like Becca said, just like, it's just so piratey, and sometimes I'm like, I don't need to read this again.
It's not even a lot of pirates, though.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting that nobody likes him, because I was like, I quite like reading his chapter, but I think it is because I did find it amusing that he was just twisting every situation.
He's just a dickhead. So sometimes it can just be fun being like, you are such a bellend. I cannot wait for you to get fucked over. Because it's like, we've gone through this entire thing of things just working out for him in the first book. No way in hell can you convince me that it's going to carry on working out like that in the next 2 books.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen with him because I can actually see something else. I can see them coming up against something else and him ended up being on their side.
And then there's me who, as soon as he had his leg bitten off, I was just like, is he going to end up with a Wizardwood leg?
I was like hoping that would happen.
We'll wait for one of his eyes to disappear too. Let's just, you know,
He'll get
pirate in there. Wait, a parrot. Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens between Etta and Vivacia because they are like jealous of one another, and that's going to be exciting to see what happens there.
How do you feel like
a funny,
interesting character?
Etta?
I like her.
I just really like the fact that there's like now like a little female rivalry going on between a ship and a woman.
That's what makes me, because like obviously Kennett was being not necessarily like he was being fake when he was talking to, but was he? Because he wants the ship and he knows that it's alive. So like yeah, he's flirting with her, but like, is it fake? Because he does actually want to be nice to her. He wants her on his side, and he knows because he knows about more about ships than like Kyle does. he knows that to get her on his side, then he has to be nice to her. But like, it's obvious that he's just charming the ship. But then Etta's jealous, and it's like, well, she's a ship. She's not the ship, so he's obviously going to be nice to it. Like,
are we gonna end up with a weird like Farseer thing again, where like sex happens, but there's like an outside thing also experience it because they're on the ship?
God, yeah, that could be a thing again.
Like, if it happens on the ship, she knows, she can feel it.
does Robin Hobb write sex scenes with too many people in, but not in a good way?
Just like
a psychic orgy almost.
Yeah.
What is it with Robin Hobb and cuckolds? Why?
I'm wondering if Vivacia will notice the wooden Wizardwood charm though, on like he has, and then they start a conversation. That could be interesting.
That would be interesting. Kat said, I'm thinking Kenneth is headed for a redemption arc, which is what I kind of think. I don't know. I never got the impression that Kenneth was that bad, but I think it's because Kyle is worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle's just so bad. I've never hated a character as much. I don't think. Oh, somebody made a point earlier. Somebody else was talking, so I didn't bring it up. But Kyle is like Umbridge. Like, it's that level of just pure hatred.
Yeah.
You never. It's like the villains of stories I never ever hate as much as I've hated Kyle and Umbridge back in the day, because she's a nightmare as well.
Because there's no reason for them to be as awful as they are, but they are.
Yeah.
They just, and there's never been anything redeeming we see in them.
I think it's definitely a situation where they're just so self-centered and self-obsessed that they just, like, in their own narrative, and so vehement in that they can't see beyond that. Everyone else is basically subhuman to them. Carry on, my love.
The thing
I think both of them are a power trip. Umbridge and Kyle. Like, that's a big part of it. So I kind of want to address the worst thing that Kyle does. I remember Ashley was reading it and talking about how awful Kyle was, and I kept saying he gets worse.
This is what I was about to get to, because I was like, I don't know if, because you said like he gets worse, and you kept saying he gets worse, so I was waiting for him to get worse. And I don't know if I missed the bit regarding intention, because I was like, did he actually mean to not turn up in time so that Wintrow gets branded? Because it's not obviously the performance that.
I think it was the guy. Is he called Tog?
Yeah, cause, like it was the second in line who was just like, he was blamed for it and being like, you didn't go and get him. So I was just like,
I think he intentionally didn't go in time. Like, he told him, but only when it was too late for them to go and get him back easily.
I mean, the worst thing he does is he almost kills Wintrow. That was intense.
Is that when he's trying to put him overboard?
just throw him to the serpents. Off you go, and I just scream.
It was such an annoying scene to read, because he wasn't even mad at Wintrow at that point. He was mad at himself. And he was angry that he'd branded Wintrow. So he was taking it out on Wintrow by trying to kill him.
Yep.
So here's my theory on that, because Wintrow was branded with Vivacia's logo or whatever, not Kyle. So that meant he was a slave of the ship and not Kyle. So I wonder if maybe he was like pissed about that. But I found that to be like the only redeeming part of Wintrow getting branded, was that he's bound to the ship in this extra way.
I'm intrigued about how that will work. Because I'm just like...
Especially if Vivacia's the one who's going to end up being the mad ship. But then is anybody going to listen to a ship? Because they're not magically bound through the slave brand, so he could get off the ship and say bye, and there's nothing she can do about it, because she's a ship. She can't walk and get him back.
That's true. That's true.
It's more likely that it would be a situation like what Octavia was saying, where it's like the rest of the ships would be affected, so they like would lose their trading, so that the city and the people in it go and do something about it, rather than the ship itself.
But would they do that if she's not?
Well, it depends, because Kyle is the one that wants the ship to sail, and if she refuses to sail because Wintrow's just fucked off somewhere, then he's going to get him back.
Well, the ships, like the live ships as a greater whole, don't have the best history of intervening, because they just left Paragon. alone. I mean, maybe they tried. At this point, we haven't learned enough about Paragon to really get to that point.
I think they said during that conversation, they were like, because of Paragon, they now have this more like solid pact to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How old is Etta?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. This is a good point. Kyle kept making references to the snakes and said he couldn't remember why he tried to kill Wintrow. Didn't know if this was something to do with the snakes. There's multiple instances in this book that I had just picked up on for the second read around of a bunch of people saying that they felt the snakes were influencing their decisions. And yeah, so I just want to point that out.
One particular thing as well that you mentioned was that women attract snakes. If there's a woman on board, then we're going to get chased by snakes. But then they also said that about slavers, because obviously they just chucked dead.
They're just chucking them off, yeah.
So,
I did just want to show this cover because I wasn't paying attention when we were talking about this earlier. But Ship of Destiny, look what's on the cover.
Dragons. But they're coming out of water.
Yes. They have wings. I am like, okay. Excited.
Unless the ships are Elderlings, which would tie the serpents to the Elderlings and then the ships to the dragons in the water.
I do just want to quickly say, because Books and Chocoholic
found She Who Remembers. Possibly.
What I was just going to say is Books and Chocoholic just said that Etta's 16, which I just find now I feel like I have more of a license to dislike Kenneth because he doesn't strike me as someone who's young.
No, I'm back on that Reddit thread that says the ages of the characters, and he's late 30s, early 40s.
Ooh.
Kenneth's late 30s, early 40s.
And then it says Etta's age is more unclear, but I guess she was at the oldest, early to mid 20s. So that would be her oldest. Point would be mid 20s.
Which is weird.
Yeah, but because I always kind of assumed that she would be relatively young, like 20 max. Just as the historical setting that it's in.
That's fun.
I see what Mike's saying.
And Kenneth had a very specific reason for wanting Etta, right? It was the way she looks, how she doesn't look too woman, like she doesn't have like curves.
Yeah, like he has the way that he focuses on Etta and wants Etta so much, and the way that he's very particular about it is just a little bit too creepy.
Yeah.
It's just how like no.
It's not even like he wanted her just for him, because he did not give a toss that she was at this house. Like, he literally just went and interrupted people, not giving a damn what was happening. He just wanted her because he'd arrived.
Yeah.
And also
those were the parts that were like really slow for me, where I was like, I don't want to read this.
Oh, somebody just said Etta is not a boy, which makes me think he might be bi or gay. That's interesting.
That's what I was getting at. Possibly. I mean, it has been spoken about in the series a little bit that there is men who will seek out young boys. So it's not like unheard of, but I don't know.
Interesting.
I did not pick up on that.
I'm intrigued by everything he took from that island at the very beginning.
Yeah, what are the others about? I need to know more about them.
It was weird because they were introduced straight off and then disappeared.
The only reason I even vaguely dislike it is because he just picked up a bag of dead cats and made a joke out of it, and I was like, why did Robin Hobb hate animals?
Like, why did you start? Like, I thought that was prophetic though. Like 6 dead cats. I was just like, oh my god, okay, 6 people gonna die. Like,
no, it's just Robin Hobb once again being like, hey guys, remember me and animals?
Yeah.
I seem to like to be mean to them in my book.
What was it again that Kenneth gave Etta that he took from the island? I can't remember.
Was it a ruby?
Yeah, something like that. That must have some repercussions somewhere, surely.
Yeah, because the what's it called? The little thing
Mm.
says something about it.
Little planet.
It's like the only thing that's ever been taken off the island, right? Or something.
Yeah.
Kat's just said that, well, I remember this because it was mentioned multiple times, that one of the reasons Brashen didn't want to show any interest in Althea/Athel is because it's common on ships. Because there was that whole thing of being like, people would ask if you were interested in men when you were working on a ship.
Mm.
And like they were harassing Brashen when he was young.
Mm.
I thought it maybe had something to do with the very, very stereotypical old pirate lore, or more like ship lore, like having women on board is bad luck. But it's like, what if the ship is a woman?
Mm.
Now what?
What do we think?
I did think that. Go on.
Brashen's backstory, where he's got the guy who comes up and recognizes him as Weasel.
Mm.
Because I had a theory about Brashen and like being connected with Paragon up until that point, and then we got Brashen's backstory, and I was like, God damn. It was just really random, I feel, because he was so adamant to ignore it. So I want to know what happened on the ship.
Yeah, same.
When I initially read the book, I thought Brashen was from the Six Duchies.
Mm.
But I don't think that's true.
He's part of a family, isn't he? He's one of the Trells. I don't know who the Trells are apart from Brashen, but
I just missed a lot on like Brashen's beginning when I first read it, because I thought he was much older. I thought he was from the Six Duchies, and then now I'm like, oh, you were so wrong. he's a trading family. He's 24. All right.
It's just because that entire, like, he's so adamant that he's no longer that person. Like, it literally says, I'm not Weasel anymore, as if to convince himself, and then like carries on. Like, he's trying to escape this past. And
I think when he was a teenager, he was just a bit of a dick. And his family cast him out, so he ended up on all these ships doing things that he wasn't proud of, and now he's changed and he doesn't want to dwell on it. That's kind of what I got from Brashen as a character. Because there's this whole thing about Kyle saying that he hasn't changed and he's as he always was, and his parents don't want him because he's a layabout and all this, and it's not true.
Brashen gives me Gendry vibes. You know how Gendry was looking after Arya when he knew Arya was a girl? That's just like slightly what that reminds me of. Only like this time the romance is actually successful.
So if you said Brashen reminded me of Boric.
Oh, I'm sad.
What's Kenneth's past? Kenneth was... Oh, that's a good point, actually. I don't remember. He just doesn't talk about it, does he?
No.
He doesn't talk about anything to do with himself, really. He's just focused on being the Pirate King.
Yeah, at this stage, that's all we really get.
Fifi said, I've lost it. Brashen is a Trell, but what's the Weasel bit? I think that's just the name that he gave when he was on the ship.
Yeah,
he was
so skinny and fat that they called him Weasel.
That's why I like Brashen Althea, because of Arya Gendry.
The ship was called the Despair, so I'm like, pardon? Is that you?
Oh my god, when you said ship, I thought you meant like relationship ship. And I was like, that's a bit canonical, isn't it?
Have we spoken about Althea yet?
No.
No, we haven't spoken about Althea.
The main character, pretty much. It's like a long intro.
Everything about her storyline is pretty straightforward in that she was meant to have, like, inherit this. That's such a close relationship, and then she didn't get that. So, obviously, you're on her side because you can't really not be.
I think that
she's like the stereotypical like fantasy heroine in terms of like Arya Stark and Vin from Mistborn, Lila Bard to some extent. I'm trying to think of there's loads of them, but they're the three that I can think of off the top of my head. So I automatically liked her because she was a lot like those characters. Although she starts off as like more a lady and has to go kind of like Arya, actually.
Actually, chick, her name starts with a T in Priory. Dragon Rider lady.
Tane.
Yeah.
I also get kind of Tane vibes in the sense that like you're rooting for this person because you're like, you're gonna be a badass. You're a bit of a dickhead, but you're gonna be a badass.
Yeah, it was nice how she had to almost prove herself. She's been in this position of power as the captain's daughter, and then she's no one. And I like the bit where she was like skinning the seals and stuff, as grisly as it was. Were they seals? I can't remember. Yeah.
Were they like moose or like deer or like I can't remember.
Robin
Longest chapter though.
Yeah.
Pages guts.
I do like.
I'm actually surprised you made it through that chapter because it was 60 pages on sea in one chapter.
Yeah.
But everybody had sea.
Sea bears.
Yeah, no sea bears. I remember that now.
Yeah, that was pretty grim, but I don't know why she was so good at it. She just was. Healthy and impulse control. Yeah. That's the reason why she reminds me of people like Lila Bard and Vin. They all need impulse control pretty much.
I feel like the fact though that she wasn't just like, because she'd been told that like this was meant to be this entire time, and she did have to go through the whole, like Cody said, proving process. She actually was on a different ship from that and was just like, oh, I'm not actually that good at this.
Yeah.
You're all
Yeah.
the fact that that's a recurring theme throughout this book, that everybody kind of gets the realization that this isn't as great as they thought it would be.
What did you guys think of the drugs? I was trying to connect with the Six Duchies and the drugs that Fitz was taking. I was like, is this the same? Is this different? You know, because Brashen keeps taking that thing. I can't remember what it's called. Yes.
It might be I don't know. It might be the same because don't they all come from Chalced or Jamalia?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember where they came from.
But because they rolled the skill, right, in the Farseer trilogy. So I'm like, if the skill is here as well, is that something that's going to dull that? I have no idea. That's
true, because it was like a psychedelic type of stimulant.
Like I'm wondering if Althea had some, would she have an effect on Vivacia if they were like talking, like skilling, like what would that be? Do you know what I mean?
She did have some, didn't she? But she wasn't anywhere near a ship for us to tell.
Yeah.
And didn't. No, I don't think so.
I do like on this in the sex scene that it. I mean, maybe other people won't like it, but I do like it that they were both a little under the influence, and then afterward it meant way more to Brashen, and Althea was like, "It's whatever."
At any point in the books throughout the whole of the Elderlings, do we actually go to Chalced?
Yes.
Oh.
Because it
Rainwild
seems to
Chronicles,
be
we do go somewhere else for a little bit, and I'm trying to remember if it was Jamalia or Chalced. We do get some bits of the satrap of Jamalia. I know that.
Just because it's mentioned so much, like even towards the end of the Farseer trilogy, we were getting little bits about Chalced. And now we've got like Kyle is from there, and then the whole slavery thing originates from there. So I'm wondering whether any of the books will actually go there, or whether it's just a place that keeps influencing everything that's going on.
Yeah, I really think, now that you asked that question, I really think that it is in the Rainwild Chronicles.
I just want to see like a giant map of what like everything laid out, because obviously we have the ships in the Farseer trilogy, which are like big enemy, and then in this they're just like other ships in some other area, and I'm like, are they just gonna clash at some point, do we reckon? Just while they're crossing.
I did like how it was the reason that they're in such a shitty position is partially because of what Fitz is doing with the wars up at the Six Duchies, and none of the shipments are arriving, so all of the families are doing real bad.
Yeah, it's funny how like the different tie-ins to Farseer are like nobody likes the Six Duchies. They're like, oh, this stupid, the Red Ships War, look what it did to us. Oh, they're all backwards. Yeah.
I just want to double check this.
Like the Farseer trilogy for like, I don't know, it seems kind of like all gallantry and like knights, even though are there any actual knights in it? I don't think there are. But it's that kind of like theme, and like all of the male characters, apart from like Regal, are really stand-up characters. There's a couple of bad ones, but there's definitely a lot more honor and chivalry so far in the Farseer trilogy than there is in Ship of Magic.
Yeah.
Everyone sucks here. What I was going to ask is, it is, maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention, but this is all happening after the Farseer trilogy, right?
Just after, I think, because they mentioned the dragons. I can't remember which one it is, but it's like, oh, I saw dragons flying, and I'm like, oh.
It's on the Butcher ship.
Yeah, it's a couple years after.
Because there's that dragon. Oh, they go to that place, and it's a dragon, and when you're up top, you can see that it looks like a dragon lying down. It's made out of stone, and Althea says dragons aren't real, and the guy says, "Oh, any sailor that was off the coast of the Six Duchies 2 years ago saw lots of them lying over."
Yeah.
She's just like,
I have theories, but I'm going to keep them to myself for now.
Leanna mentioned Selden. He's just been ignored all the way through this.
Yeah.
Poor kid.
Is he the other boy, Malta's brother?
He's the little guy.
So I don't remember who he is. Like, the name rings a bell.
Maybe he'll
That
just
guy's irrelevant.
like. Yeah, it's interesting.
Anybody in the chat have anything that you would like us to talk about particularly? And do any of you guys have anything that you want to bring up in particular?
I
think it's not a book. So
I was going to bring this up. I heard that Hobbs based the Six Duchies environment on the Pacific Northwest. She based it off of Alaska. If you actually take a look at the map of Alaska and flip it upside down, the big part is the Six Duchies, and the Cursed Shore is the little peninsula. And then you get the mountain range, so that's like the Mountain Kingdom.
Cool.
Yeah, little tip.
Wow.
I do find it funny. I read this out to Becca because the like author description thing, very much like you can tell Robin Hobb took her experiences and put it into this book, because it says that she was born in California, raised in Alaska, where she learned how to raise a wolf cub, to skin a moose, and to survive in the wilderness. She married a fisherman who fished herring and the Kodiak salmon half of the year. These skills would stand her in good stead. She raised her family, ran a small holding, delivered posts to her remote community, all at the same time as writing stories and novels.
Oh.
And she raised 4 children in the process.
And now she lives in the Pacific Northwest.
What a woman.
That's a lot of kids.
Are you planning to continue reading the Elderling book after the live ship traders? Yes, we will be finishing. I think our last live show for the live ship traders will be in February, and then we may or may not be taking a break, but then we will be back. If we do take a break,
read something really stupid.
Yeah, something like really light.
Like really, really dumb.
We'll do the selection series by Kira Cass.
Oh,
Everybody
God,
will abandon us.
No!
I think I got rid of that. I had it, was going to start it, and then I was like, nah.
I think I read the first 2 chapters of that years ago and was like, nah. Not
but yeah, we will be continuing. I'm not sure whether we'll do. It's hard because we've got 3 series left after this.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't feel like there's a point in doing 2 series and taking a break, because just to come back for 1 trilogy. Yeah, we will have finished this in February, so it will have been nearly a year that we've been doing this, and we still have 10 books to go.
We committed for years on this shit right here. Yeah. None of us can die. We're not allowed to die.
it won't end until 2022 if we didn't take a break.
I can fully imagine though, we'd get right to the end, like the last book, and then Robin Hobb would be like, "I'm coming out with a new book."
Yes, like, she's done for now, but that doesn't mean that she's actually done. So she may continue, but she has nothing to do right now.
By the time we're done, she'll come out with another one.
That's what she did after Tawny Man. She thought Tawny Man was the end. She was like, "Psych." So the ending of Tawny Man is like super epic.
This is what's really confusing though, is that it's like and I kind of find it really annoying when fantasy books do this, especially when they're becoming long series, because I feel like in the beginning of the book, she set a very clear ending, if that makes sense. Like you already, and like throughout the very beginning of the Farseer trilogy, you have all these implications and all these notes and nods to an ending, right? Like we're going to see him while he's older. There's going to be some kind of fuck shit happening. So it's just like when you carry on lengthening out the series, I feel like the quality of the ending, because obviously she's got more and more ideas and stuff like that, but I feel like it has to turn into a situation where she has to start following someone else because it can't be Fitz.
I'm intrigued to see if we start picking up on like things she does. So for instance, me and Becca keep saying that with the new Sarah J. Maas book coming out, we can pretty much predict like some of the ways that she'll go because we've already read all these books before. We can tell what she likes doing in her stories.
Are you talking about the Nestor book?
Yeah. Well, this is the exact reaction, right?
No, but it's...
No.
Here's the thing. I know Lucien's a big part of it, and Lucien's my favorite character. I know this is a completely different series, so I'm just like, okay, fine, I'll read it. But like, I also, this is gonna sound so rude, but I feel like Sarah J. Maas is also not as strong of a writer. She's very in your face about a lot of things. So it's like
use the same tropes over and over again. I mean, she is my favorite.
Yeah, she's definitely the kind of writer that you read to enjoy and less to think, because she gives a lot, and like that's why her plot twists are very interesting, because there's so much put onto that specific twist, but you don't have to think as much throughout. Meanwhile, I feel like with Hobb, you have to pay attention to so much. Oh no.
The schedule, whatever we do with the rest of the books anyway, the schedule will speed up a little bit at one point, because I think 3 of the Dragonwild books are under 500 pages, or at least 2 of them are. So we'll be doing those one a month. But I'll wait until we've read at least the next book before I figure out, or like we discuss what we're doing about the rest of them. But we are continuing at some point because I think everybody's enjoyed them so far.
Oh yeah, I'm so down. I can't wait to get back to the bits and the yeah. This was the first one for this whole thing, Catch Up Book Club, that I had already read. It's great.
I need to know what the fuck happens. What is happening with Boric? What is this? I need to know.
I just remembered about Molly and Boric. Now I'm sad.
I was so happy, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't there for that live show.
I wasn't there either, so I didn't know anybody's thoughts on how Molly and Bert ended up together.
Oh, so bittersweet, wasn't it? Because like
it hurt so good. It hurt so good.
That's just Robin Hobb. It hurts so good.
For me, it was very much like I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you, and now you had to be gross, didn't you? What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
I thought you were a father figure. I wasn't expecting you to try to go from being a father to daddy. Like, no.
That was literally me. And another thing that I find funny as well is I remember in the very first live show, I was just like, I really like Robin Hobb's like depiction of depression, because there's these hints, and then this is like, you want depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what.
I need Mrs. Serotonin to come back.
I'm waiting for Fifi to mention how much of a man Boric is. You guys, she just kept saying that Boric was a man, but like a man with multiple A's in the middle. So it's like Boric's a man. Like, this is a boy. Boric's a man.
Yeah.
Boric was always a daddy for me. Oh no.
I mean, he's older part in the illustrations and in the illustrated editions, but still.
Yeah. Molly and Boric is definitely better than Molly and Fitz. I mean, I do find the age gap weird, and I didn't think Boric was going to go there, but I don't like Molly and Fitz.
You know, I ship the Fool and Fitz, okay? F and F.
Yeah.
Give me. He was settling for Molly anyway. She was just conveniently there.
I wanted Boric and Patience back together. I liked their banter.
I did too.
And they would have been like Fitz's parents if he ever came back, but he's not going to apparently. Well, he has to eventually, but yeah. Did anybody actually have any questions? Because
You sent any in for.
Boric be dude. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be right back. I need to go look at my edition again because I feel like I'm missing something.
The illustrated edition has a very handsome Burke.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Boric be fine. Oh, Fifi's back on the Boric bullshit. Nah, to be fair, he's pretty hot.
Jennifer Robin did say earlier, Rainwild magical items, will they play a big part?
Yeah, that was up.
Everything plays a big part.
I'm just really excited to learn more about the Rainwilds in general because I did not expect them to play such a part in this series. The first thing I didn't expect was how prominent the magic is and how people just kind of accept it, because in the Farseer trilogy, it's something that's either looked down upon or reserved for the elite. And then in here, it's kind of not everybody has it, but it is known and there are magical elements to the world. And I really want to know why the people of the Rainwilds start to get all like disfigured after a time.
Yeah, because aren't they like scaly?
Yeah, or they've got like warts and oils
growths and stuff.
Are they the others? Oh, gone.
Maybe eventually. But the guy that Malta meets is fine because she doesn't realize that he's one of the Rainwild people until afterwards, and then she doesn't want anything to do with him because he'll get ugly eventually.
Yeah. She had to have known. The guy was in a really ridiculously nice carriage. He wasn't in it. He was outside of it, so she thought he was working for the carriage. That's hilarious. But he was wearing a veil the whole time. She can't be that dumb.
I mean, she was more bothered about his jewels, wasn't she?
Yeah.
How like magic and religion combines, because there's the whole thing with Wintrow everyone's going through this conflict, and it's like, because he just refers to it as magic, and he's saying the magic that brings these alive and the magic that brings these alive don't align with everything that he's learned. Like, interesting.
I'm gonna get my copy of Royal Assassin because I feel like it might be in there. Hang on.
Yeah,
isn't this Boric?
Show it closer. Yeah.
Oh no! Oh, no, that's what I was talking about.
The one with like baby fits in Assassin's Apprentice,
like where he's holding his face up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure, yeah, I would ride that face, but sorry, ma'am, who is this?
Oh, people said they all said it's Shade.
It's a very emotional scene.
Yeah, because
there we go.
Yes, Fitz at the end of Royal Assassin. Yeah.
Who's that?
That's Fitz getting taken out of the ground in Burke.
Okay, see, I don't have the illustrated edition of that one.
Yeah.
Would still ride that face though, but I'm still angry because he's very old.
But in there, I mean, he didn't look older than 50.
Yeah, but Molly's like what?
Half his age still.
I feel like she would be like 20 maybe, and I'm like, 8 years, you could have a whole ass grown adult between you two. Like,
yeah, she's still about half his age.
But I guess they're consenting adults, but I'm just out here like, will you, like, it's weird because he's known her since she was very, very small. That's why I find it weird. Like, it's I would find it a bit more okay if they didn't know each other, if they've never seen each other. But the problem is, she's seen her when she was a child and a teenager. That's why it's like,
oh, that's something that's we discussed in Assassin's Quest. She's a couple of years older than Fitz.
Yeah.
Not quite as young as we assume she is.
Oh.
I think I said in that live show, I'm just like, it's not even the age difference thing for me. It's the fact that he was like,
it's the betrayal.
The dad, like he was Fitz's father for like as a figure.
He stole his woman.
Can we talk about the fact that essentially his faux father fucked the girl he fucked. That's what's going through my head. That I can't like.
With it, I didn't even
But
think
they're
about
not
it.
actually related, so
I know, but it's like
not. It's not as bad.
Well, I mean, is that as bad as Fitz fucking his uncle's wife?
Yeah, that was worse.
Yeah. Everyone forget about that.
When they're in the Mountain Kingdom, anything goes.
To be honest, I feel like Hobb might be just a bit more horny than Martin.
But I think she does it better.
I just
Yeah.
if she really wanted threesomes this much, please just make it between humans.
Yeah.
Only through some other thing.
One, like, I bet you in the next books, like, we're gonna find like someone wakes up in the middle of the night and Kenneth's just like with Vaisha.
Oh. I was gonna say
Like,
something.
what's the noise the ship is making? Who's rocking this boat?
Why are we rocking so much?
Oh my god.
Wow.
Sometimes.
Just looking at Verity and Katrican have a big age gap too. Yeah, they do. She's only 20-ish.
Yeah.
Cool. So does anyone have anything to add for this one? Predictions?
No.
I think Althea and, like, we were talking about this as a whole. Althea and W name I can't pronounce. I feel like they're definitely going to be endgame, as in like they're the ones that are going to make it out alive, but like as in like in a good circumstance. Carl can go fuck himself, and Malta, hopefully she stops being a bitch, but definitely some tie to dragons. I do feel like there might be something under the water that you're only going to find because we're finally exploring all of those kind of depths and things. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens.
Especially because like
I'm hopeful. Maybe. I still don't believe it. We'll see. But still, I want to believe it.
With the thing with the serpents, like Vivacia as well is really unnerved by them, even when they're not doing anything. Because when they were docked, and she's just like rocking away, being like, "No one listened to me," and they're just like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "The snakes." They're not doing anything. She's like, "But they're there." Do not like. So yeah, she's definitely got.
Yeah, we'll talk about it as well. I'm excited to get back into it, but I've just started Words of Radiance, so it's going to be a while.
Oh, it's going to be a while.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it. Is that it? Yeah.
I think so.
When's the next live show? How long we got?
The next live show is going to be beginning mid-December, but we'll see because it's December.
Yeah.
And life gets busy and awful in December until it gets good. But it should be, I think, on Cody's channel next time. Yeah, Cody, and then Zach's the last one. Where is she? She's there. But as usual, I'll give you like 1 or 2 weeks notice when the live show is going to be.
Cool.
And it will be
Magic.
The Mad Ship.
Yeah.
It's smaller as well. Like this edition, 670 something pages. So that's
I
nice.
thought it was 900 and something.
Yeah, mine's like 900.
The text is real small. I didn't notice.
With a bubble. Oh,
I was like, I don't think it's shorter.
No.
Oh, well,
I think it's the last one we read so far. I think it's about 980 in the paperback.
love that for you, Cody.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you in 2 months.
Yeah.
Bye.
Do the smiling wave.